recording.
We're live. Tell your friends you're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.
We have another very special episode. We have the 2017 movie Get Out. Nathan, do you have a history with a movie that's, I don't know, 7 years old?
I think me and Stacey went and saw this in the theater.
Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of, I'm not sure if I heard it was word of mouth or if they just had like one of those commercials where it had like 400 quotes from the critics, and I was like, oh, I better go see it. I can't remember. So,
I think I heard this. I heard of this because they had. I- what was it? Was he? Did he go on the Daily Show and talk about it? It was something like that.
oh, maybe.
That's where I remember hearing about it.
Okay.
So yeah, that's. I remember we went to the theater to see this one.
Did you go like opening weekend, or do you remember what the theater was like?
It was pretty full.
Okay, that's what I remember about it when I saw it. So
It's a lot of people in there. But yeah, I remember like it's like I like sometimes I like horror movies if they say they're good. If they're like, oh, this is like an intelligent horror movie, I'll watch those.
well, I think the thing I was more interested in is like, wait, a comedy guy directed a horror movie and it's got rave reviews. It's like,
Yeah,
what's going on here?
first movie he ever directed.
Yeah. um. Yeah, because it's directed by oh, I have the wrong notes up. Let's
Directed
grab.
by Jordan Peele
Yeah.
of the comedy duo Key and Peele.
Which they're both on like the the bad days and the end days of Mad TV. But I only remember what's it? Was that Michael? No, what's the guy's name's Keegan?
Keegan Michael Key.
Keegan Michael Key. Yeah, like he's the only guy I remember from that era because he kind of stood out. But like I remember just everything being bad in that era. So I don't even remember Jordan Peele being on it. But when they did Key and Peele, like all that stuff is like fairly genius. I never even sat down and watched any episode. It's just like the internet brought Key and Peele to you, and it's like, oh, that's pretty funny. And I just never bothered to actually like sit down and watch a whole episode of that. I just waited for the internet to serve it to me. um,
I remember there were yeah, I remember those I mean there was always something timely about them. 'Cause I think it was because they had some crossover with the Comedy Central guys.
yeah, it was on Comedy Central.
Okay, yeah, and so I remember that. But yeah, that was what I associated. When they said they made a horror movie, I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I thought it was going to be like horror comedy, and it's like, no, not really. I mean, there's some
I,
funny moments.
yeah, there's comedy in it, but yeah. I mean, if you're doing your horror right, you're having some moments of levity in it. So. um, yeah, it came out February 24th, 2017. Um, so yeah, Jordan Peele wrote and directed it. Toby Oliver is the cinematographer who has done some stuff of note, but I don't know. This seemed like it was pretty like well, Blumhouse is right up front, so you know it's a cheap movie. But I don't know how cheap it was. But there wasn't any big actors in this movie, but it does look like
Four
it's
and
a
a half
good.
million dollars.
Okay, great. Yeah, this is a good looking movie. So,
Yeah,
um, and there's like actors you recognize, but there's no like stars in this movie. So,
no,
um,
it was a lot of people just starting out, or people that had were established, but they were like background characters.
but we do have our third Australian cinematographer in a row.
That's interesting. That doesn't surprise me, actually. The Australians spent a lot of time and money training people to be filmmakers.
Yeah, and they also seem to also specialize in action and horror stuff. So
Yeah.
that's like an easy translation. Like we need a guy who can do this. Like what do they got in Australia? so, um, but yeah, I mean, it looks like he did a bunch of Australian stuff. None of it I recognize. I think he did the second Wolf Creek movie,
Okay. Yeah.
and then he also worked with the original Wolf Creek guy on other stuff. Um, But yeah, I mean, the most notable thing like is Get Out, and then Happy Death Day, which that's a great subversive horror movie. Ever seen that?
No, I haven't seen that one.
It's basically just like Groundhog's Day, but darker because it's full of murder rather than like, funny suicide. Well, actually, she kills herself too, just to like, let's see what's happening. But then like the twist is like, she finds out the more she kills herself, like the weaker she becomes later on, and there might actually be like oh no, I might actually die now. And then that a sequel to it where she's like having fun, where she's like jumping out of an airplane naked without a parachute, just to die in some way. I haven't watched that one yet, but that was a fun movie. Um, what else do I recognize? Day Shift. It's like the Netflix vampire movie with Jamie Foxx,
Oh, okay. I think I remember that one.
which like kind of looked like had a good commercial, but as far as I know, it was kind of had people seem to be mixed on it. So I think he's got like a new Netflix actioner, the Jamie Foxx with him and Cameron Diaz. It's like, is this gonna be good? Because it doesn't look good. They just keep making these movies for Netflix. Somebody must be watching them.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of those things show up on there and it's like, who? What?
I
Okay.
don't think Cameron Diaz has been anything for like 15 years. um, then yeah, cast of basically people I don't know. There's Daniel Kaluuya or Kaluuya, or no, I'm not sure how you're supposed to say it. It looks like Kaluuya, but it seems too much like the alcohol that his name would be that. So it's got two U's. So
Yeah.
yeah. So like yeah, this is what I know him for. That and Nope. I don't really know him from other things. He's been out there. Allison Williams, which I only know her from, and I don't even see the show. I just know she's in that show Girls, which is also where Adam Driver came from.
Okay.
That was an HBO show. And then Bradley Whitford, who we just all know from The West Wing. So I don't know, Nathan. Do you have a more famous, or do you have a more I know Bradley Whitford, but not from The West Wing story? So
No, I don't. That's
okay,
the only thing I know him from.
yeah, it's basically West Wing and this. Like I know he's been in other stuff, but this is where I recognize him. Or is he like in one of the like early Adam Sandler movies? Is just like one of the rich guys that gets his upcomings or something like that. I can't remember. And then there's we'll come across some other people because there's also like, oh crap, the guy who played Milton in Office Space. I wrote his name down later. We'll get to him. But there's a lot of good cameo stuff.
Well, I know Stephen Root was someone I
Yeah.
recognized.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Stephen Root.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just remember this being like a really surprise hit, and then I remember like This Is Us came out, and I heard bad things. I never even bothered to see it. But then Nope came out, and that's genius, which I have that on the docket to come up later on, so we'll see that too. So we'll get a double helping of Jordan Peele, which makes it seem like he must be a really special director. So.
Well, no, we can't forget that one of the actors in this, Catherine Keener, who's the mom.
Oh yeah.
She was in another Let's Possess People's Body. Won an Academy Award for it, being John Malkovich.
Yeah.
So that's weird.
Their other famous role from the 40-Year-Old Virgin. So.
Yeah.
I feel like she was in more stuff, but then I look up her intermovie database. It's like it's not really that full. So I was like, I guess I just remember the roles she's in. So
Yeah, she stands out if you remember her.
because I thought she was like I thought she was in like a TV show or something for like 100 episodes, but I don't believe she is. But and then I don't know. You remember anything else about the release of this movie that comes to mind?
Not really. I remember like hearing about it on uh I think was it the Daily Show or something like that.
Yeah.
Just thought it was weird that like, oh, this guy directed a horror movie. And everyone said it's really good. And it's like, well, we should give this a look. So
I don't know. Would you describe his directing style as Kubrickian? or am I just like taking immediate like transfers from um, Clockwork Orange with just the mind control stuff?
I'm not. Yeah, the subject matter is like unusual.
Yeah.
So you're not going to like what's going on. Like it's going to be hard to put that together. And if you have just watching the movie cold. So yeah, that could be some of it. There's a lot of people like staring into the camera in this movie, a distance, like
Yeah.
so you're watching people and they're just acting strange. So
But yeah, like almost like in my
yeah.
this movie puts together Stepford Wives, which I never actually seen, but I just know what it's about,
Yes.
and that's the main kind of hook about this movie. Let's make a version of that, but um, and then yeah, Clockwork Orange, and then
Rosemary's Baby is
oh,
another one.
Roseman. Okay, I was
Yeah.
gonna the other one I was gonna say was what's Kubrick's last movie?
Oh, Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah, Eyes Wide Shut.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
um,
Rosemary's Baby more because it's like because oh, like Stepford Wives is about fake people.
yeah,
It's just about people being just like, oh, the whole thing is they're disingenuous, fake. It's not real. And then Rosemary's Baby is like body horror type. I'm giving birth to Satan and I don't want to, that kind of stuff. And
yeah. I've
uh,
never seen Rosemary Babies. I also have a thing where it's like she's like freaking out because she knows everyone's else is crazy, and everyone's like, "Why are you so crazy?" And then it turns out she's right, and that's kind of like what the
yes,
movie is. Okay,
that's the twist. Yeah.
yeah, okay,
Everyone's trying to convince her, like, no, we're not bad people at all. But she knows she's seen horrible things. She knows they're bad people. And she's also being, I think fed drugs or she's being driven insane,
yeah,
essentially.
yeah. She's being gaslit.
Yeah, for real. Uh, not, but yeah. So it's kind of a combination of that. And then it's its own thing too, because it kind of captures a very unique, like, Obama is president time in the country with how some people just seemed very fake and disingenuous. Like, no, I think this is great, but there's always a sinister subtext to like, why are people being so nice? And yeah, it does
Well,
a good job of capturing that also.
yeah. Well, it's like, and then Trump was president when this came out, so.
Yeah, yeah,
But
but
it's capturing the time, like you're saying. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I would describe like the people's movie as like, oh, there's an actual phrase for it, but I was gonna call it like toxic white guilt. Where it's like, oh yeah, it's so bad, like the things you have to go through just to do normal things, and then the other people are like, yeah, and then they're like, anyways, we're not gonna do anything about it. We're just acknowledging it so that we can continue to thrive from the inequalities.
well, it's like it's like recognizing 1% of the problem.
Yeah.
It's like it's terrible that happens to you, but
Well, it's
no,
not. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
it's not necessarily that like. Well, it's not necessarily like they acknowledge the problem and then they just continue with their lives and don't do nothing about it. It's that they want to be recognized and applauded for recognizing the problem, and that's where the problem is. It's like
yeah,
you're not doing it for any good means. You're just doing it for like position and like good standing or whatever.
yeah. So essentially, they're just Democrats.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like half the people that go to church, they just go there so that they can, so other people can believe they're good people when they're actually terrible people. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Well, it's yeah, it's just like a veneer of fakeness.
yeah,
Because I guarantee you, like, if people who like the people who believed in the Democratic Party, not as on a ground level, but just as the fantasy of a lot of voters is like, oh, if they start talking about class war and wealth redistribution, like these guys would win every time, but they never talk about that. You thrive on the same system
yeah,
that like Donald Trump is just the naked, ugly, gross face of, and it's like, oh yeah, they both feed on this. So yeah, the fake or what? Yeah, the disingenuous white like creepy culture is like that. That's real. I've seen that.
yeah.
people that just like act a certain
I've
way.
engaged it. No.
No, I'm just a passenger in this world. You know, I don't affect change in anything, but I've
Yeah.
noticed weird behavior in other people. Like, what are you doing? This is obviously weird. What you're doing here.
But yeah, these are the people that are rich enough that they just never experience any problem at all in
No,
America. And then again, they want to be recognized when they like are like, oh, there's little people in this world and they get stepped on. Isn't that sad? It's like, yeah, you gonna do anything about it? It's like, no, the stepping on is what keeps me where I am. So.
I'm smart enough to know what the dark forces of the universe that feed my you know it's a law of nature. Things have to function this way. You know, it's like okay.
I don't need a gun. I need a zip code.
Yep.
um, so I guess we'll get in. We have Act One. Um, we open on a night on a suburb sidewalk. At least I think it's a suburb.
Yeah.
We get Andrew Logan King, played by Lakeith Stanfield. Which the other thing I know him from is Sorry to Bother You. If you've never seen that movie, it's a great, crazy movie.
I haven't seen that one.
I think Patton Oswalt plays his white voice in that movie.
Okay.
Because they have like it's like a bunch of black guys like doing telemarketers, and they have like they put on white guys' voices to like to get better results, and so Danny Glover is like voiced by oh crap, who is it? I mean, when he's on the phone, he's voiced by it. Crap, the Mr. Show guys.
Oh,
David Cross. He's voiced by David Cross.
wow.
And
Ever this movie.
then Lakeith Stanfield is like voiced by Patton Oswalt, and it goes a lot of different places, but it's a great crazy movie. I put it up like if you ever did you ever see Everything Everywhere All at Once?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well both those are crazy movies featuring mostly not white people. So.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I'd say that's just where I know this guy from. So he's on the phone talking about like feeling creepy and feeling out of place. Which being, we've watched the movie and know what happens. Do you know what he's here for? Like, is he on the phone with the Rose, or is this like Jeremy's gig to just grab people in the middle of the night?
I thought he was on the phone with her. That's what I thought.
Well, see, the only thing I don't, because when we see the pictures at the end, he's not in them.
Yeah.
So I thought this was like, this is how Jeremy gets people, and like the dad doesn't like that because it like, beats up the product too much. But I'm not sure. So I was just trying to suss that out now while we're here. So
Yeah, I just thought I never really thought about it. But yeah.
Because like, I mean, what we see her pathology is that she brings them to her parents' house. And so this isn't that. So I didn't know if this is a, Jeremy's vector or just a side, she's working two people at the same time, or I don't know. So, a car pulls around in the background and then it pulls up next to him. And then Andre tries to ignore it and just walks the other way. He's like, no, I'm not doing this day. And then the camera kind of looks back and there's the doors open on the car. He's kind of looking around. There's like old timey music is coming from the car, and then Andre gets grabbed behind and choked out by a guy like wearing like a night helmet or something.
Yeah, it was something weird like that. Yeah.
Then he just throws him in the trunk of the car, and then credits start to appear over it as the guy gets back in the car, and we get some like discordant violin strings playing. We get the titles "Get Out," and then we cut to like the titles play over like shots of the woods from a car, and we got like this discordant music playing with like chanting that I don't know. Like, I don't know if I mean, it's like tribal chanting, but I have no idea what's going on here. I don't know if this is completely original or if this is a made up song. Although I was watching this Amazon and like nothing in the music category popped up, so I'm guessing this must be from like an original score or something like that. But
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
okay.
I had, yeah, because I looked it up too. So I was like, that sounds kind of cool, but I could, and just appearing on this soundtrack, that's all I found. So it's,
Because there's like sometimes it feels like you can pick up English words in there, and other times it's just like, is this a word or a noise or a sound? It's like when the Japanese throw Gregorian chants into everything. And it's like, what's
yeah,
that mean to you? And it's like, I don't know. It sounds cool.
sounds cool. It's aesthetically pleasing.
um, then we cut to black and white photography in an apartment. Here we see Chris Washington, played by Daniel Kaluuya, is getting ready for the morning. We got a childish Gambino song plays, which that's Donald Glover's like band alter ego rap persona.
Yeah.
It's playing a song called Redbone. And I heard that like Jordan Peele chose it because the song says like stay woke and like keep your eyes open. So, back when woke was a more positive thing, and then it's been completely like turned into something that's not.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because it used to be just like, again, recognizing the struggle of other people, and now it's just like, just like I don't know what it is. Just,
Well, it's like everything else, just been weaponized
yeah,
politically,
yeah.
so someone can get a tax break. I don't know. It's
Nathan, this is a movie that's predominantly black people do with black experiences. So we might miss a lot of things in this movie. So
well, I don't miss the big broad strokes, but the one
yeah,
thing I do know is because these people for some reason want to infantilize and literally inhabit black people because they think they're cool and strong. But then when this happens, they neither act cool or really strong.
yeah.
It's like you're sort of missing the point, what you're trying to do, or maybe that is the point that white people can't be black people and vice
Yeah.
versa. I don't know.
Um, but like, so yeah, the song's called Redbone. Does that mean anything to you, Nathan? The term Redbone.
That I believe, I think that's one of those terms used in the black community to describe other black people,
Yes.
but I'm not sure.
Yeah. So I went to Urban
I
Dictionary.
refuse to
I hope I'm not saying something right. Like, Urban Dictionary said it's like a light skinned black person that has like red undertones, and they use Halle Berry as an example. So
Okay, that's what I thought it meant, but I was it's like I could be saying something awful. I don't want to
uh,
be an HR Monday like Nathan. We listened to your podcast this weekend. It's like, oh, okay. What did you think? Did you like the movie? It's like the movie wasn't the problem.
I think I've just heard that term in like hip hop music and movies with like
I've heard
predominantly
it
black
many
cast.
times.
And I think I might have looked up one time. He was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
There are other terms I've also heard. No, I'm not even saying they don't obviously sound bad to me,
yeah.
but I'm not going to repeat them because I don't know their context. It's like, okay. So yeah, but this is one of those things where it's like I don't know what that means, and then I forget about it. But yeah.
Well, I remember there was one I was listening to a podcast, and this was like apparently like an ancient term in like the late '80s called like Hotep or something like that, where as like black culture trying to like hook itself to Egyptian culture, and then like calling themselves kings and Hotep and stuff like that, and then it's like
Brother. Yep. Oh
and
yeah.
there's just and I just like it's like I didn't know it existed, and it went away, and then it slightly came back like I don't know, a little while ago, and then disappeared again. So,
It's something you can find a lot of on Twitter if you're curious.
yeah,
'Cause I have a particular fascination with that kind of behavior. I
yeah,
like to listen to those stories from the people telling them, not passively. It's like I want to find a guy at work and like tell me about this because I think it's funny and cool. That's why I think like Cat Williams is a comedy genius. Like,
yeah.
this is I've heard some version of this for decades now.
Yeah.
I don't quite get it all. I'm only getting like 50% of it, but the 50% of it I'm getting, it sounds like fun and imaginative. I don't, yeah, it's all very interesting.
um, yeah. So Chris is a photographer and apparently lives in an apartment, so that's impossible. I don't know.
In New York, yeah.
I don't know how. I don't know how you make money doing photography. I thought that's something you just had to be a nepo baby to be. So.
Yeah. The only way I've ever known how to make money is to make manufacture heavy industrial goods, and I make money for that, and I understand why. All these other jobs, it's like, yeah, follow your dream. What I'll see you at the factory in a few years, but yeah, go for it. I don't understand how that works.
But yeah, there's freelance photographers, but again, that just seems like
When I think of freelance photographers, I think of the James Woods character from Salvador. It's like that's a
oh, okay.
photographer to me.
I thought you were gonna go to the Nightcrawler.
No, that's yeah. I mean, that could be true, but I'm thinking still photography.
still photography. Yeah, okay. Then we have Rose Armitage, played by Allison Williams. She knocks on the door. They kiss. Chris is packing for the weekend. They're going to meet the parents, which is like that's another movie. Well, not meet the parents. Guess who's coming to dinner? Which I think I've never actually seen it. I just know what it's about. Which that's where like a white girlfriend takes her black boyfriend. But this is like, was that in the 60s or 70s that came out?
Yeah.
So it was like it was a real like culture clash back then. And then they remade it with they just did a race swap and then had Austin Kutcher be the guy coming to dinner.
Okay.
They've done that several times. You ever see White Man's Burden?
Is that the alternate history world with John Travolta?
Yes.
And, the really famous. Who's the other actor?
Oh, Sidney
I think it was,
Poitier.
yeah, Sidney Poitier. I think. Yeah. Yeah, that was like the '90s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember watching that one time and like it was just on cable, so I didn't know what it was, and I was like, "What the hell is this movie?" Because I don't know, it was like clearly just role reversal stuff, but it was Henry Belafonte. Is that it?
Oh, okay. Maybe that was. I'm not sure. I know there was like.
That's who's on the cover. So I don't know. John Travolta and Henry Belafonte.
Okay, I knew it was like one of the.
I mean, it's not a good movie. It's just like this. It's a crazy movie to watch. So.
Yeah.
And it's not just like everything's role reversal. It's basically just like, here's rich black people, here's poor white people, which do exist in the world. So
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a thing.
We got let's see here. Oh yeah, Rose is trying to assure him that his parents aren't racist because he's like, "Did you tell them I'm black?" Because like, I mean, this is like an interesting thing because you can see him be quiet about stuff because he's like, he knows he can't just like, "Oh, we're gonna see your parents." Like that's not just what this is. There's all sorts of considerations because he's black and being around white people that he has to like he has to prepare for because he knows things can go wrong for no good reason just because. Yeah, because there's like there's that time where he just like he like wakes up in the middle of the night and goes down into into the kitchen in the dark. It's like, dude, you can't be a black guy at a white person's house in the suburbs in the kitchen at night. That's not gonna go well. But they live in the kind of suburbs where like the neighbors can't see into the house, so
Yeah, they're not. It's like the suburbs like mine where everyone's like 5 feet apart. Like, oh, the neighbors are fighting again, or is the TV turned up really loud? Who knows? Who cares?
It's the feedback. There are fights on the news and the fights live. So the ride to the suburbs. Chris goes to pull out a cigarette and Rose grabs it and throws it out the window. And he said, "That's $1," which which I don't. Are they more expensive now? I don't know. You haven't bought a cigarette in like 10 years. So.
Yeah, it's been 10 years. I mean, they're like $12, $14 a pack. So.
Okay.
And you get 20 in a pack. So
okay, so that's.
I think in New York they're
yeah, that'd be crazy.
$30 a pack. So
yeah, when that one dude get killed for selling loose cigarettes.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So again, maybe that's something. I don't know. I can't remember.
They do that around here too. I remember the first time I heard that at a gas station. Guy came in. It's like, man, give me 3 Lucy's and a 40. I'm like, what's a Lucy? I thought it was like some kind of lottery ticket, and he put 3 cigarettes on the table, and it was like a 40 ounce of some kind of booze. And I was like, oh, okay. Interesting.
Um,
Then he went outside the place and just drank. Okay, cool. This is my kind of town.
yeah, I know the term Lucy's from was it The Corner? One of the like uh before The Wire came out, they did a mini series called The Corner,
Oh,
which
okay.
was about like you know the inner city life in Baltimore before The Wire came out, and dealt with like drug addicts and people just trying to live around drug addicts. um, let's see. Oh yeah, it's Chris calls up his friend Rod, played by Little Ray Howery. I've seen him in things, but this is probably his most famous thing. Maybe, I'm not sure. He's done a bunch of TV, but I feel like I've seen him in other things. But he's a TSA agent complaining about his job, about like patting down old ladies and them getting incensed, and he's like, "No, that's what's gonna happen. The next 9/11 is gonna be some geriatric shit." um, so yeah, Chris is like providing instructions on how to take care of his dogs. That's why he's talking to Rod. And also his friend. It's good to establish it. It's great that they just keep bringing this guy back and like, remember this character exists. So, uh, then he makes some lewd comment about Rose, and Chris hangs up on him. And then a deer jumps across the road and like hits the car. So that they stop and take a look. Uh, Chris hears the deer groaning, and then he finds a deer and just kind of stares at it for a while. Which there's a lot of there's a lot of staring at things with Chris here, but this will go back to his uh, childhood trauma with his mom dying from a hit and run.
Hmm.
So, but you don't know that's what's going on here. You'd have to go back and like, oh, that's what's going on. So,
I guess the deer sounds are a voiceover from the director.
oh, okay, yeah, I think I saw that. Yeah, yeah. Even though like it feels like Jordan Peele's like an A+ director, he still does like anything.
He still does comedy shit,
Yeah.
comedy skit stuff. It's like, wouldn't that be great if we just morphed my voice into the dying deer? Everyone's like, yeah.
But I like how he almost has like this Spielberg-esque gravitas, but then like he's like a bit character in some TV show at the same time. So, that'd be like if Steven Spielberg kept directing Columbo episodes like every once in a while.
Just keep his hand in it.
Yeah.
This movie thing doesn't work out.
Have they remade Columbo yet?
No, I don't think so. They
Have,
should.
have you watched the? I haven't watched it. I just want to know, and I doubt you have because I don't think any of us watch network television. But have you seen the new Matlock?
No, there's a new Matlock.
Yeah, with Kathy Bates as Matlock.
Interesting. Who was my Matlock? Candy Griffith, right? The
Yeah,
guy.
there's only one Matt. Well, I mean, the original Matlock was that, but yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I had no idea. I'm glad she's still working. She's a
yeah.
talented actress.
Oh, did you ever watch that Perry Mason remake they did?
I watched a couple episodes of it.
Okay.
It was, I mean, it had a great cast and some good acting, but something with the structures of the story was very disjointing.
Okay.
Kind of I just didn't stick with me. I didn't like, oh, I'm enlisting for 20 more of these, No, couldn't do it.
Then we cut to like it's moments later. Chris is like sitting on the hood of the car or leaning against the hood of the car and like contemplating, like staring into the middle distance while Rose talks to a cop. Which, if you listen in the background, he's like, "You're supposed to call animal control for this, not the police." She's like, "Oh, okay." And then the cop kind of like looks over at Chris, and is like, "Can I see your ID?" And then Rose gets incensed by this and is like, "Well, he didn't do anything. He wasn't driving." It's like, and then the cop tries to give some reason, but then Rose pushes back, and then the cop ends up like walking away kind of angrily. He's like, "Get that fixed." So, which then when they get in the back of the car, Chris says that was hot. So I don't know. Did you get? I don't know. I don't know if that happens in real, interracial relationship when the white girl stands up against the cop and they're like, "This is gonna be the best sex ever."
I don't know.
Yeah, I want to know. So, we cut to moments later. They pull up to the brick mansion, which I don't know. I assume this is a mansion. I don't know what qualifies as a mansion. This is a big place though. So,
It's an estate for sure. It seems to have a lot of land around it.
yeah. Um, we mom and dad. This is Dean and Missy Armitage, which is played respectively by Bradley Whitford and Kathleen Keener, which they're great in this movie because they're like great to be like, hey, let's make them likable, and then let's don't. So they're great at doing that. They come out. They greet both of them with hugs. We see the groundskeeper kind of stares off in the distance, which they make him extra weird. Which I thought those are pointing at like that this is the guy from the beginning of the movie, but ends up not being that. But I don't know if you like. What were your early indications of this weird groundskeeper? Like before you knew what was going on.
I just didn't know. It seemed
Okay.
like, is this like a play on plantation stuff? Like, what are they
Okay.
doing here? I
Yeah.
just, why do they have these people here tending the land? It's like, it's like, it was on the face of it, it seems like, oh, this is a callback to like, the plantation era or
Yeah.
something. Because I knew those concepts are going to be presented, and it was actually, that's what it was supposed to be. But also, it's oh, there's a deeper mystery too that's even more horrifying.
Yeah.
Also, everyone seems to act very strangely too.
Yeah.
Like all the black people
They
that
are acting black.
all the black people that are in the orbit of this family that you see. Well, there's like three main ones. None of them. They're all like, oh, they're 6 degrees off course. Like
Yeah.
something's seriously not right here, and you don't know what it is, and you're trying to guess. It's like, are these people secretly racist, and all these black people around them are afraid?
Yeah.
What's the horrible thing? What's the
Yeah.
horrible truth behind this? Which is a great, like, it's a lot of the subtle genius of this movie, this low level tension building that starts, and then
Yeah.
once everything snaps into focus, you're like, oh, it's worse than anything I could have. It's like, doesn't get much worse.
Well, I think Cthulhu stuff would be worse. The worst thing to imagine, but it's almost there.
Yeah, it's with Cthulhu stuff. There is death eventually, though. This is like no death gets you out.
This is people intentionally doing this. This
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is more. Yeah, there's nothing like there's like a sci-fi like twist to it, but it's nothing like out of the ordinary or like it's like with one twist of the magic knowledge, this can happen. Like
Well, see, there's like a cynical way, like a guy like me would look at it. It's like, oh, so you're saying all these people are racist, right? I got you. People, they're being nice, they're really racist, right? That old song and dance, and then you realize, well, not only are they not racist, but they are the most evil. They're doing the most evil thing a person could do. But you look at it on one level, it's with a level of cynicism. It's like, oh yeah, because they're just bad people, right? It's like, no, they're actually really bad. They're worse than which is another thing that subtly works on you in this
they're
movie.
putting black people in the worst prison imaginable.
Yeah, it's the ultimate destruction of the blacks' culture. Is just going to subsume it with some weird science thing that, which is perfectly what you imagine rich, powerful, evil people. It's like, of course they're doing this. They
Yeah.
have to be doing this.
Yeah, they're bored.
Yeah.
They want to live forever.
Don't have anything to do, and they want to live. This is just Zardoz on a different level.
Oh man, Jordan Peele's Zardoz.
That'd be great.
I heard he was like up to make the a live action Akira movie, and I was like, that'd be awesome. I just want to see him make any movie. I don't care. He's actually been really like careful with the movies he's made because I think he pretty much has a blank check. He could probably cash on a movie by now, but he hasn't. So
No, well, he attaches himself to such weird ideas and subject matter, and then weaves it together in such a way. It's like, oh, well, this is amazing. But yeah, I think he would lose whatever was his if he was just completely overwhelmed with the subject matter.
yeah,
just like, oh yeah, we're doing a shot for shot remake of Akira or live action Akira. It's like I don't know how much of him would come through that. It's a completely bizarre movie.
Yeah.
Get down to it, but I don't know how much of that would come through.
I'll probably have to watch This Is Us before I watch Nope again, because one of the things I thought was genius about the movies he's made between Get Out and Nope is that like it feels like they're very scalable movies. Like you
Yeah,
could make this on a $10 budget, you could make this on $100 million budget,
yeah,
and it feels like you're when you're watching the movie, it makes you feel like excited to actually make a movie because it's like, I mean, he didn't do anything too wild. He just made interesting choices.
yeah.
If you just had the time, your budget is your time. You could make this movie happen. It won't be as good, but you can make it happen. So. Which also then goes to show his talent. It's because
Yeah.
it's like it's him that's making the movie special.
Yeah.
um, yeah. So they go inside. They sit down. Dean kind of makes a joke about eradicating the deer population, which is kind of easily read the wrong way. Where it's like, are you talking about deer? Or are you talking about something else? I mean, it's basically that joke about like killing lawyers.
Yeah.
That then white racist people make it either they change lawyers to Jews or black people, and then they laugh
Oh,
about
the
it.
death at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, the good stars.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That joke. I've only heard that in terms of lawyers. I've never heard people throw, but I imagine that does happen.
Oh yeah, the ashtray joke and stuff like that. It's
Oh yeah, that one. Or the people swimming home with another group, one of each group under each arm. The American Dream. Yeah, I've heard some variations on that. Because it's like, what is this good thing? You start out like, what would be this great thing? Or it's something terrible, and the refrain is like, wouldn't that be a great start?
yeah.
That's actually mass murder, but okay, get it.
He's I don't know. That's the thing is like he's just talking about deer and deers are a problem and they create a lot of car wrecks and.
I live in see Michigan and Pennsylvania trade off for number one deer strike capital.
But it just comes off as weird. It's like, oh yeah, like this is the white guy meeting his daughter's black boyfriend for the first time. You're gonna start about like talking about eradicating people and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like I don't think it's a good start. It's like, well, there's black people around. We gotta start talking about black people stuff. And it's like, can't you just treat me like a person? No.
Too nervous.
Yeah, which will have great nervous energy of that later on too when they have the impromptu party with limousines and old people. We meet Georgina, who is immediately weird.
Yeah.
Because it seems like it seems like whoever she is, it's not who's talking. So,
Which must have been, I would like to see like the instruction given to the actress.
yeah,
Like, this is how we want you to do this. Because whatever it was, it worked.
yeah.
It didn't really pay off until you figured out what was going on. But then when you did, it's like, oh, she makes perfect sense. Even more sense than the Running Man. It's like she actually, it's like, wow, that is so weird. How did they work that one out? I want you to act like this. I want you to act like you're not hearing and responding to things like a step in your head. Like, I don't know how you say that, but
yeah.
really good.
Well, like the actor Daniel Kaluuya, like he has like great scenes where he's like crying and like trying to like keep it back, and then she has the same moment later on where it's like that's amazing because it's like you can just like literally see things crossing in the actor's mind and playing the character and all that stuff. Is like this is amazing. This is why you can't replace these people with AI.
Yeah.
But then there's also like the little hint here of that because Dean mentions when he's talking about Georgina that he's talking about the kitchen, but he says we keep a piece of grandma around. So,
They never show you what that piece is. It's just a weird thing about that dialogue.
yeah.
It's like, what is it? The style of the kitchen? Because it's like a '60s style kitchen. What's that piece of grandma? It's like, no, they're actually saying what they think. You know?
Then they go about out back looking at the woods, and we get Walter the groundskeeper shown again. Again, just this is like the third time we've had him pop up. So that being Act 1, we got Act 2. It's tea time with the Armitages. Chris talks about his parents, which is like, it's like, oh, I didn't know my dad and my mom died in a hit and run. It's like, well, that's terrible. So, that's a real bad conversation starter. So, I guess you got to start somewhere. So whatever. Dean notices Chris is antsy and mentions that like he needs a cigarette. So, um, and this is where also that Dean mentions that Missy is a therapist and she can cure it with hypnosis. Um, which here, like, you know, the hypnosis is magical and all that stuff, which we know it's like not really that, but I think it's fine for a horror movie because that's just like a good, that's just a good tool in the bag for a horror movie. So, they also mention a party of grandpa. Like, it's like, what is this party? They mention it's like grandpa's yearly party or something like that. I forget how they phrase it, but they try to make it. You know, it's all set up, but
Yeah, what did they call it? It did have a weird name,
yeah.
almost like a southern name. Like it wasn't Fandango, but it was something. It had an unusual name.
A bonanza, no. Georgina has a moment while pouring the tea where she just like, you know, like spills the drink and then like it's like, and then she kind of like, it's like she like, you know, resets and then like, oops, I apologize. I think this is also where Dean mentions like, I know this looks bad where it's like rich white people with black servants, but like we take, you know, we hired them to take care of our parents and then like we kept them around after they died. So, um, again, linking them together with the, you know, the grandparents. Um, just good, just good movie stuff. Good screenplay direction and yeah. Also, this movie's like an hour and 39 minutes, just perfect. Yeah, just. I love when a movie's good. I love it better when it's good and short. So. Yeah, Missy tells Georgina to go get some rest. Then we have Jeremy, played by Caleb Landry Jones, which I don't know if I know him for anything else. He's just like, he's a super weird actor. I don't know if he's just doing that for this role or if he just like generates weirdness as a person. But he seems like Macaulay Culkin's unhinged brother or something.
Yeah.
And Macaulay Culkin already has, you know, unhinged brothers, so like this guy
Yeah.
would be the worst of them. So that's the younger brother. Then we cut to it's dinner time. Jeremy's telling a story about Rose biting a guy's tongue while like Jeremy was stealing liquor and putting water. You know, the classic. The parents measure the liquor and then they like put water back to keep it up, and which is like I've seen in so many movies and I never did that. So I don't Nathan, you ever stealing liquor and have to do that, or one of your friends you stole liquor with and then they had to do that?
Yeah, I've heard of it being done.
Okay.
I know it's a thing.
Okay. What else? Oh, yeah, and this is where Jeremy gets extra weird because at some point he's like, it's like talking about MMA fighting, and Chris says it's too violent. And he's like, you know, with the right training, with your genetic makeup and body, and this where it's like things start getting a weird, like, what the hell's that about? Which I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that's another like weird, like racist loop of stuff where it's like when it comes to sports where it's like it's almost like, you know, these people that love sports but then when they get dominated by black people, they're like have like this begrudging respect to it. It's like, only if I just had their body and stuff like that, which is kind of like half of what this movie's about. But
Yeah.
I don't know,
Exactly.
I don't know. It seems different nowadays because I remember there used to be like no black running backs in the NFL, and now there's like 5 of them, and they're like at top of the league. So,
Yeah.
so I don't know. But also, sports science is completely different now. So now you don't necessarily have to be a genetic monster to be a good athlete anymore. You just need science behind you.
Yeah, it is changing. Well, it's like there used to be no black quarterbacks, and now there's quite a
Half of
couple.
them are
Yeah.
black. Yeah.
And then what was the other one? There was no what was the position? Like there was no white. I forget. There was some tackle position. There hadn't been a white guy recruited into the NFL as a draft pick in like 20 years.
Oh, okay.
There was finally one last year or something, and yeah, there's all kinds of like things that are changing, and like basketball, like one of the better players now is a Croatian guy,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's like,
Oh
well,
yeah.
that's different.
Oh yeah, yeah. Now the sport's like lousy with like great Eastern European like shooters.
And
But
then
it's
there was no black coaches anywhere in the NFL for a long time. Now
yeah,
there's some of those. So, but yeah, it seems like things are they're swirling around. So, I don't know anything about baseball, so don't ask. 'Cause I don't know. So,
yeah, yeah. I think a lot of white people and Hispanic people,
yeah,
and like a few Asian guys. I mean that Otani guy who's like both a pitcher and a hitter. He's like the modern day Babe Ruth.
yeah,
Which he had a historic year this year because he was like the first guy to ever steal 50 bases and hit 50 home runs.
right.
So it's
That's
kind
nuts. Yeah,
of. And then they went on to win the World Series, and he wasn't even like the MVP of the World Series. There was some other dude that hit like a home run in like every game or something like that. So. Yeah, did you watch the World Series this year?
no.
I just like what's the score, and then I'd never actually watched it. I just uh, it seemed like it'd be historic to have like the two coasts like fighting each other with the Yankees and the Dodgers. But and I thought like, oh, the Dodgers haven't won in a long time, but I guess they won in 2020. But it seems like there's a lot of 2020 championships that people feel like are invalid.
Oh yeah, the home run derby era. Yeah,
So, well, just they had the bubble stuff for like the NBA, and like the Lakers won that, and it was kind of a shortened season, and like it gave LeBron like a championship with a third team, which I don't know if that's been done before, because because people like to compare LeBron James to Jordan, and it's like who's better, and then people obviously go like, well, it's Jordan because he had two three-peats, and it's like. And like, yeah, but like, LeBron James has been to like 12 championships and lost half of them. So like, he got them to the finals. And now he's playing with his son, so which that's all seems like a sham. But hey, give it to him.
yeah,
He's 40. Let him have his thing. So.
yes. This isn't going to go on for another 20 years.
And he got his friend a job. His friend's now the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. Yeah, I can't remember that guy's name. It's like JJ Redick, I think. And like him and LeBron James had like these really good podcasts where they talk about basketball. Because like I hadn't watched basketball for like 10 years, and I saw this podcast, and like they just had all this new terminology I didn't know about, and like talking about like the fire from the nail. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? But they made it seem exciting, and that's when I started watching the playoffs last year, and you got to see like Doncic and stuff like that. Like I'm not sure if he's Croatian. I can't remember what he is, but yeah, he's crazy. Oh yeah, so yeah, I think Rose and Chris are up in the bed after the dinner, and she's complaining about her family and trying to apologize. Like, yeah, they're weird, and he just like nods in agreement because he's like, this isn't new to him. It's like, yeah, this is what happens every time. Like I date a white girl. So, um, then we cut to it's at night. In bed, Chris has like a memory of the deer in the forest because he doesn't like wake up and see the deer. He's just kind of awake and like has this vision in his head or whatever of the deer. And then it kind of like, and the deer kind of like moans, and then that turns into like a kind of like a fly buzzing sound, and then he slaps his neck and wakes up. or just gets out of bed. He's already awake. So unless he sleeps with his eyes open, so yeah. That could be symbology too, because that's stuff with that later on. Um, so yeah, he goes downstairs into the kitchen on the first floor. He walks around quietly. Where this is again, I'm like, oh, don't do that. don't be doing that in a white neighborhood. But then we see like Georgina just walking in the background. They give a little violin sting. So it's like, I forget. Like I don't know. That's got to be. They have this moment in a lot of horror movies where they just have like somebody kind of like walk in the background. I feel like there's a name for it, but I can't recognize it. But
Yeah,
I feel like Michael Myers does this. I know there was a big one in like, was it like the third Exorcist movie where like a nurse with scissors just walks in the background or something like that.
I think so. Yeah, I don't know what that's called. I think Hitchcock started doing that.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, I guess that's another thing. Like a lot of what Jordan Peele is doing is just Hitchcock stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, when they made him kind of like the spokesperson for the new, or the host for the new, um,
Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone, they're like, oh yeah, it totally makes sense. And then I guess that was bad, so then that didn't work out. So,
Yeah,
but I don't think he directed any of them. I think he was just like a host and like a producer or something. So
yeah, that seems like it was a lot of ideas crammed together, and only a few of them worked.
I can't remember, was that an Apple thing or what was that?
Was that Apple or was that Paramount? I think that was Paramount.
Okay, yeah, it might have been Paramount. Yeah. And Krista goes outside for a smoke, and then he sees Walter directly running at him. Which he's like, "What's this?" Then he kind of gets weird as he gets closer and closer, and he just like veers off at the last moment. It's like, well, that's weird. And then Chris turns around to like see Georgina looking weird through the window, and that's another like, well, that's weird too. And then they cut to her perspective, and she's looking at herself in the window, so she can't see out the window. She just sees herself, so she doesn't know how like weird she's looking. So, which I don't know if like, I don't know, like, do you suspect something Night has something to do with like, like the these people's bodies like coming back to life in some way, and like this is the only moment they have, or what do you think's going on here?
I don't. Yeah, it's hard to say. I don't know what the psychology of somebody occupying somebody else's mind is, and how that works.
Because I wonder if like they went to sleep and then like sort of like their baser self took over, and then but they can barely do anything except like small stuff like small movements without any kind of regard, almost sleepwalking, or in this case sleep running.
Not sure. I kind of gathered that like once you have this surgery, you don't sleep.
Okay.
I thought that might be part of the problem, something that was lost. It's because like, well, if you're repressing a consciousness to have another consciousness in here, you could never sleep. That other consciousness would take over.
Okay.
And that's kind of what I got, because there's always trade-offs to everything. It's like none of this stuff would be seamless. So it's like, yeah, you get to live on in this body, but it'll die twice as fast because you could never sleep.
Okay, yeah.
That's why I was assuming all of these people are awake all the time, no matter what. Everyone's awake. Because going to sleep in this movie, like, oh, that's when all the weird stuff happens. But I could be just reading that into it with that could be completely false.
I mean, it's up to interpretation. It's the Verhoeven effect, Nathan. It's what we do.
Yeah.
It's interpretation. Did you watch Severance yet?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay. No.
I'm planning to tomorrow. I'm going to have some free time.
Let's see. Chris walks back in. He finds Missy sitting in the dark, asking about the dangers of smoking, which this is super weird. Again, it's like, is this planned or what's going on? I don't know. It's a horror movie. Things just happen. So, he sits down across from her. We get more attention paid to like the teacup and spoon and like the specific scraping of it and stuff. She asks about his mother. And where he was when she died, and she asked him for like more details of the day, like the raining, like the TV and all that stuff. Which here he's just like holding back emotions, which I think this is where he starts. Oh, I know, like yeah, as it gets deeper into it, he's like crying and grabbing the chair, and his eyes are wide open.
Yeah.
Which is probably just Visine. I don't know. Maybe he did this for real.
This guy's a pretty good actor. He's a British guy, so they always train him how to act well.
Okay. Yeah, he's crying and grabbing the chair, which that'll be an important motion later on. Um, she gives him the command to sink into the floor, and then we cut to like his childhood self like sinks in the bed, and then we cut back to we see him like falling into this darkness away from Missy, where it looks like he's like in a theater of, empty space with just dust. uh, like it almost looks like water, but not. Yeah, they call it. Okay, yeah. And then we come back to him like in real life, and he's just like wide-eyed, staring and crying, and like no movement on his face. And then she like looks into his eyes and says, "Now you're in the sunken place," and so that's the name of this place. And then she closes his eyes, and then they just cut to him waking up in bed with Rose taking a shower, and so he's thinking like, "Is that real?" He gets a text from Rob, which when he looks at his phone, it's unplugged, which that's like important for later stuff. Which I guess is just Rose was unplugging his phone, right? Or was
I
it
was
Georgie?
assuming that, or the housekeepers, or
Yeah.
everyone, the
Well,
whatever assortment of family members were sleeping on it.
either
Probably
that,
Rose.
or just Microsoft purely paid for this movie because this is like a Microsoft phone,
Yeah.
and Microsoft doesn't make phones anymore. So,
Yeah, I noticed that in this movie. It's like, oh yeah, they made that phone for like what, 2 years? That was that.
um, uh, oh yeah, the text is right. I think it's like it's a text of like it's a picture of his dog with a beer. It's like we had a wild night last night, so that's kind of funny. And then I think Rod makes another rude sexual gesture, or not gesture, but like comment, and so he just doesn't text him back. We cut to Chris goes out into the woods in the morning. He's like taking some pictures. Um, he's walking back towards the house, and he like starts to zoom in on Georgina and like to see like hey, what's up with her? And then she kind of looks his direction and he gets scared by her and like pretends like it's like, oh, I'm just looking over here. uh, then Chris sees Walter, and so he goes up and talks to him because nobody's talked to Walter yet. And then when they do, Walter is very weird. So he's like, he seems to like not know modern terminology and like has his own stuff, which of course that makes sense. But oh yeah, Walter apologizes for his what is he called, his night exercises.
It was something like that. Yeah.
Which he never changes clothes, so
No.
just
So this guy's never sleeping, as far as I know. He's just,
yeah, and it doesn't seem like the whole transplant thing like works. Like, like it seems like incomplete, and you're doing manual labor for what to what end? Like, do you have your own life? Can you leave? Like, what's going on? But I'm guessing there must be successes or whatever. There must be successes and failures, and maybe these are the failures. Or do you think these are the successes, Nathan?
I think. Well, these are the successes. These are
Okay.
these are the. This is the original grandma and grandpa you see in the videos later on.
Yeah. Walter asks about like him being with Missy off his last night, and so basically this confirms to him like, oh, that really happened. So now he's kind of like, um, and then he walks away, and Chris pulls out a cigarette, and then he's just not feeling it. He's like, I don't want a cigarette. Then we cut to him. He's talking with Rose, and he says like I think your mom hypnotized me because like I don't want to smoke anymore. um, which is like I'll have to talk to her, and then they're talking about Walter, and then I think they're talking about Walter. It's like, yeah, he says it's not what he says, it's how he says it. Which that's just like another thing, like when people talk about racism, where it's like, well, people hide it now, so now you have to look for. It's like, well, what do you really mean? Because it's like, yeah, you didn't say anything racist, but it sure does feel racist.
Yeah, you got a racist glare to your eye, like me. No, not at all. And you're just like staring at him, guy. It's like, yeah, you're very clever.
Then the party arrives. It's like a bunch of people limos. It's a bunch of elderly people. So it's like, what's up with this? I guess it's Grandpa's party. They're in remembrance of him or whatever. Rose and Chris are talking to a bunch of the elderly people, and then they're like admiring his body and form, which is again very weird. But I don't know. Like when do when do you start to pick up on like, oh, it's like a some sort of like body switching thing going on here? Like, is it here, or do you have like, or do you later, earlier on? When do you think you picked up on
Oh, it took me a while to pick up on what was going on.
that? Okay.
Um, they kind of almost had to spell it out because I mean I thought they were doing what I originally thought it was because we have this the whole movie is just like a racial dynamic. That's why the movie was written. It's like they were erasing their personality somehow or doing some kind of like
Oh, okay.
Clockwork
They're
Orange.
gonna tame black people.
Right. That's what I originally thought it was. It was like,
Okay.
oh, we're going to erase their personality. We're going to do some kind of modern day, white version of white America, rich guy version of the Ludovico technique, where we can control these people because we can't because we worship their physicality and their use of language and stuff. So we've got to erase them. I thought that's what it was. I had no idea. It was actually what it turned out to be was better than that. But yeah, it took a while to like, what do they want to do and why? Oh, because it's fashionable. That's even weirder.
Chris excuses himself to take some pictures as things just get more weird. So, Chris spots another young black guy. This is Andre from the beginning of the movie, but here he has a completely different style. He's got like a straw hat and like a suit on, whatever, and his talking cadence is completely different. Then the old lady comes to gather Andre, and then as Andre leaves, like Chris puts out like a fist for a fist bump, and then Andre shakes the fist, which is very funny. So, uh, um, and then that also just makes Chris more uncomfortable because he is like, man, what the fuck is going on here? so, so you're in the same spot as Chris. It's like, what could this be? I have no idea. So, then Chris finds himself alone with a blind man. This is Jim Hudson, played by Stephen Root. It's kind of like a great, like, late half of his career because I feel like everyone knew him as Milton in Office Space. Now he's had a bunch of. I guess I'm thinking of like this and like Barry, but like he's had other like pretty good roles in like late of his,
Yeah.
the later half of his career. So, it's like great. Like that's a great twist where you have like a comedic actor do, like really dark like drama stuff because they seem to. That seems like where they pull their comedy from, and so it seems truer when they just make it straight darkness without the comedy. So.
Yeah, kind of like that Robin Williams thing.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, he's a great dramatic actor. It's like, well, he's always been just a dark human being. Now he's getting to. He doesn't have to mask that with laugh with me or we'll all cry. He doesn't have to do that.
So yeah, Jim's a blind art dealer, which like Chris knows Jim, and then also Jim knows Chris' work, which like Chris is like, how do you do that? It's like I have a assistant that really describes things very well. But he said like when he did have sight, he just didn't have the eye for photography, and so then he got into dealing, and they began to lose his sight. So yeah, but that is like the only person that like seems that Chris defines like actually like can relate to and has sympathy for, and he's not just somebody weird looking for his body. And then it ends up being like, no, that's actually exactly what he's doing. He's just better. He's just better at hiding. So, then we cut to Chris walks upstairs and everyone downstairs like goes quiet, which is just a great moment.
Yes.
It's like, wait, what the hell does that mean? It's like it means like, oh, everyone like talking to each other here. It's like it was all for show. So, Chris finds his phone unplugged again. Now it's dead. He plugs it back in. Chris talks to Rose about it. She's like dismissive, but then like serious. Is like, I'll talk to Georgina about it. Which is fun because I like that that Chris has to like talk to her to talk to other people because he knows like something's gonna go wrong if he just goes and directly confronts the people in a strange neighborhood. So, Let's see here. Then she leaves. Then Chris calls Rod, and then uh, he tells Rod how weird everything is, and then Rod is basically like trying to tell him that he's in a horror movie, which is very funny. As that is like, oh, because I think he tells him about the hypnotism, and it's like they're gonna turn you into a sex slave. That's what they're doing. Which kind of,
Yeah, I mean, it could be for sure.
if you take over someone's body and have sex with it, well, then they're a sex slave.
Yeah.
So. He also mentions Jeffrey Dahmer stuff, which is just funny. Just something about like those guys were going over there to do some gay stuff, but then they ended up doing gay stuff in the wrong way. Where it's like, no, he drilled a hole in their head and then have sex with their heads. It's a great scene. So, but it's also good. Just constantly bring this guy back to like remind him that like Chris has someone in his corner, but even though they're not directly there. And then like I think he gets off the phone because Rod says some crazy stuff, and so it's like it's too gross. I'm gonna hang up. And then he turns around, and Georgina's just there, and it scares the crap out of Chris. And he comes to apologize, and they have an awkward conversation. She's talking about like your cellular device, and very like proper, and like she's never seen a cell phone before and stuff like that, which actually wouldn't make sense because whatever. I think you know what a cell phone is, but
Yeah.
here's where we get like the great moment where there's like oh, what does he say? Like he says something like you seem like you're uncomfortable around black people or something like that, and then there's like this moment where she trembles and like kind of like swallows her words, like she's trying to say something else, and then doesn't, and then she just says she goes back to being her, but then just tears start streaming out of her eyes as she's smiling. It's like, this is a fantastic performance.
Yeah, that is crazy. Like I said, I would love to hear the director's instruction to the actors. It's like, we want you to, purvey this, or portray this. And it's like, how are they doing this?
Well, also it's great because like what the scene is like, what she's trying to say is like, hey, I unplugged your cell phone, but then you just see so much in the actor's face about what's going on that's just purely up for you of what that means. Like that's what that's there for. It's for you to interpret it. It's like, well, that seems like something bad is going on, whatever this is. So, then Chris walks outside, and Dean introduces him a bunch of old people. This is where like an Asian man asks about like the African American experience, and then Chris like stops Andre to like, hey, what do you think about the African American experience? Which Andre starts giving a very poor answer. It's like, well, I'm somewhat of a homebody. And then while Andre is talking, Chris takes a flash photo of him with his phone, and then something snaps in Andre. You can see like this kind of like weird like gloss kind of go in their eyes whenever they get a flash to their eyes. And then Andre's nose starts bleeding. He like changes demeanor, and then he starts yelling at Chris, "Get out!" It's like he starts coming for him. It's like get out. So that's where you get the titular, the
name of the movie. Yeah,
which is good. And then we cut to like they're like kind of like everyone's kind of like it's like, oh, that seems bad, and they're kind of like sitting aside, and then Dean says Andre had a seizure, and then Missy Missy comes out with Andre, and it's like he's under control again. So now he's like calm and weird again, and he's got his straw hat on, and then Chris and Rose talk away from everybody else, and he's explaining all the weird things that he's experiencing. And then while this is going on, we cut to like the silent auction, and like it keeps pulling out. And we eventually see that there's like the auction is being conducted by Dean. We see all the people at the party, and we reveal a picture of Chris at the auction, and then we see that Jim wins the auction with like they're all holding up bingo cards, and like it's like, what does this mean? Do you know it now, or you just had to get to the point where they're just like that video that should literally explain everything that's going on here? Or do you think they're auctioning for a slave to be mind controlled that they could have?
Yeah, again, I still thought it was like they want. Well, no, at this point, I knew it was something different actually,
Okay.
because it's like, why would they be paying money? And what does this mean? I mean, of course, it's obviously it's a reflection on slavery, but it's like also it's like what would they do with him? Like you can't legally own like there's no it's just like there's no coercive force that's going to make this guy like, well, I'm going to work at your house now. No, it doesn't work that way anymore. So then I thought, oh, is this like organ harvesting? Is this? But then
Uh,
you see the way the guy acts at the place when he uses the flash from the phone on him, and he's like, oh, they're doing something to their brains,
yeah.
and so it's like that's what I thought. But
Um,
like I said, there's always something because all the black people who are around these people seem off.
yeah.
So that's why I originally was like, oh, they're you know,
Well, and like they never talk to each other.
no,
Which that's I don't know if you've experienced it. I experienced this in the Marine Corps, and there's like I don't know. There's also a thing. There's like a book called like Why Do All the Black Kids Sit with Each Other at Lunch or something like that. And that's exactly what happened in the Marine Corps. Like you might have like they might be in different like platoons. You might know the guy, but when it came to eating, like all the black guys like stuck together. It's like, oh, that seems kind of weird, but there might be a reason for that. They might have to like extra look out for each other or some reason. Even though in the Marine Corps and they have their own body stuff because they're like if you're athletic, you can rise above the ranks just by being athletic. You don't necessarily have to be good at your job as long as you're very good at athletic stuff. So
yeah, that could
and so
be.
there's actually a lot of black people in charge in like the Marine Corps and the military because they're just, well, I mean, yeah, again, it's not because not necessarily because they're genetically predisposed to be better. It's they just worked harder at it.
Yeah,
So, because there are also plenty of crazy, freakishly athletic white guys in the Marine Corps. So and Hispanic guys and Asian guys. They're all there.
yeah. There's something that unifies them.
um. But yeah, so yeah, that was the point. Like, yo, that's why like when Chris goes up to talk to Andre, he's like, "Oh, somebody else who will understand me," and then nope. And then also none of these black people that have been taken over have never talked to each other. They never congregate. And it's like that seems weird. So,
Yeah, it doesn't. You think they would find something in common with
yeah,
people, which I've heard people do that if they're like outnumbered. They like, oh, let's find the guy that looks like me.
yeah,
Talk to him. Which is not something I do. If I'm outnumbered, I just go off by myself. It's like I don't want to seek the companionship of others. I want to read a book or do something.
But it
Yeah.
does seem extra weird that like Walter and Georgina like never talk to each other. It's like, weren't you married, or is this till death do us part? Is this the death part, and then now you don't have to be together anymore?
Yeah, I don't know what looking at someone you are married to forever in a different body that might be so dissociating. Because, like I said, this is not a perfected technique as we
Yeah,
find out. So it's like they might have to do all kinds of things to not dissociate.
yeah,
Because it's like to hear someone speaking in another voice in another body, but it's the person you were like married to for 40 years or whatever. That might just be too much. They might just psychologically deconstruct
yeah.
so they can't really relate to each other anymore. They continue to live. Their consciousness lives on, but there's certain like triggering events that they can't
Well,
do.
well, I mean, it seems that like Andre and his, now wife,
Yeah.
like they seem to be fine, but maybe that's because his wife still looks the same.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. She's not. He's seeing the same thing. She's seeing something different, but she's not part of this fragile joining of minds. And it's also anyone willing to do that is like if they came to me, it's like, Nathan, you're going to die, but you could live on in another body if you just subsume and destroy someone else's personality to do it. And I was like, well, isn't that murder? Well, in a way, yeah, kind of. It's like, I whatever comes next, I guess I'm going to have to face that because it says, we shouldn't kill people or enslave them. It's like those are clearly bad things. So, it's like whatever's coming next, I don't think So it could be that the people that just do this and were obsessed enough with doing this to make it happen are just so inherently bad and evil that they're like, oh, we don't want to talk, we don't want to remind ourselves of what we really are. And there could be all kinds of subtle things on there.
But yeah, that's the genius of the movie because it brings up these ideas in your head. Like, man, what's going
Oh, this is a true nightmare. This is
on?
going on again. It's like some watching people being fed into a wood chipper by a serial killer. That is bad, but at least they get to die. Like, no, not here. It's continue.
Chris talks. Chris is talking with back with Chris talking with Rose, like by like the lake or something like that. He talks about the night his mom died and how like his mom survived the initial hit and he feels responsible because he didn't call 911. Like he didn't know she got hit by a car, but also she didn't show up for 3 hours and he didn't call 911. He feels responsible for that.
Yeah.
She consoles him and like they kiss and he says I love you and she says it too, but it seems kind of like a bit more forced on her end.
Yeah.
They walk back to the house. Jeremy is playing a ukulele weird, so I don't. I don't know. Ukulele is a weird instrument, so I don't know if there's a good way to play.
They're
Ukulele.
always kind of strange. That's what's about them.
Everyone has a weird smile. Like, I think there's like the one like overweight guy at the party is like, "Nice to meet you, Chris." um, Chris sends a photo of Andre to Rod, and then Rod immediately calls him. He's like, "That's Dre." It's like, what are you talking about? It's like, he used to work at the movie theater. It's like, that's fucking right. I knew that guy. It's like that's not Andre. It's like I know, man. They're doing. I'm telling you, sex slaves.
Yeah. Yeah, that guy's just got a one-track mind when it comes to what the solution, origin, or what we're going to talk about. It all involves sex, and so everything is, which makes him funny and endearing.
That cuck and bull life. I don't know. Things I've heard on the internet. So. Then in the middle of the call, his phone dies. Again, it was like unplugged again. Rose comes in and Chris tells her they have to leave right now. Because now he basically like, yeah, they did something to that guy. So they're going to do it to me. So we need to get out of here. They've already done something to me. Chris starts packing. He sees like an open crawl space door. He goes inside the door and he sees a photo. There's like a red box with photos of Rose, where it's like it's from her from like high school marching band or whatever. And they starts undone. We start to see like a history of stuff, and then she's like, "Oh, she's had other black boyfriends," which I think he told her. Did she say like he was her first black boyfriend, or was that implied? I can't remember.
I think that was implied.
Okay. So now it's like,
yeah, do your parents meet all your boyfriends, or it was something like, well, not you're a little different, or it was something like that.
Okay. And then it keeps going, and then we get to the end, and it's Georgina, and I was like, huh, was Rose hooking up with Georgina? Or she just like bring her home as a friend or something. But that's when there was like a direct correlation where it's like, oh, Rose is in on whatever is going on here. Rose comes back and she starts stalling to try to find her keys, and then Chris just starts moving out of there. They go downstairs and the family is like now weirdly aggressive. Dean starts talking weird stuff about like dying and like living forever and stuff like that. And it's like, Rose basically reveals that she's in on it because she's like crying. It's like, I can't find the keys. And then she's like, oh, here they are. And then basically, like, and then Jeremy tries to swing a croquet racket at him. And then Chris tries to make a break for it. Then Missy just taps on her teacup, and then he just immediately falls into a trance and like falls on the floor. Then the family like drags his body downstairs, and we kind of get like it's like pulling away from the screen into the sunken place kind of look here. So I have that being the end of Act 2. Got Act 3. We got Rod is calling Chris, but he only gets voicemail. We cut to him going to Chris' place to feed his dog. He calls Chris again. Again, it just goes to voicemail. While Rod is dog sitting, he looks up Andre Hayworth on Google, and he sees that he's reported missing. He's like, hey, we found the guy. Then we cut to it's like a room with like lighted ceiling tiles. It's like the whole roof is like. Remember that room in The Dark Knight where just like the whole roof was light? It's like that.
Yeah. That's
Um.
actually a light kit you can buy in a room with a drop ceiling.
Oh, okay.
They're called like tile lights because they just replace one of your ceiling tiles. So this is just like, well, we're just going to set up a drop ceiling, but we're going to put nothing but these because no one would want that in real life. It'd be
No, it'd be very
insane.
harsh.
Yeah, I'd be like, oh, I love this room, but
Yeah.
spots in my eyes.
Have you ever seen the magic? You know those lights they have in like surgical suites.
Yes,
You seen the magic of them? How they don't cast shadows.
yes. All the lenses are slightly offset.
Yeah.
There's some kind of thing. A lot of model guys, it's like if you can get one of these from a hospital auction, do it.
Okay. I was just about to ask you, like, would that work with model stuff? I guess it does.
Absolutely, it would work. Well, it wouldn't. It wouldn't because sometimes you want a shadow effect.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, but yeah, it's just like the guys that use the scanning mic or production microscopes and stuff to paint.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, all that stuff looks cool, but it's like I don't have the skills to even justify those costs, so I'm just gonna get like a big magnifying flip over lens and be happy with it.
um. So yeah, Chris wakes up tied to a chair. He sees a deer head mounted on the wall, which I'm not. Do you have any? Do you connect any meaning to that other than there's
Yeah,
literally a deer hit and then the deer's on the wall?
yeah, it's a well, I mean, yeah, I mean that those two it connects those two incidents in his mind, but also it's like taking trophies.
Okay. Okay.
It's like that's I mean, there's so much symbology in this movie, like her using a teacup to like rubbing the spoon on the rim is the hypnotic trigger and all that. It's like, well, what country is famous for tea and drinking tea and having tea time? It's like the British, and what were they known as? The ultimate colonizers. And it's like
Yeah.
there's so many like levels of stuff that I'm not even going to talk about because you can watch other YouTube videos that just that. But yeah, there's
This is another movie you can go full Verhoeven Effect
oh
with.
yeah, you can go nuts. There's one the one theory I love is this is all the fantasy of the TSA guys. Nothing this ever happened. It was just all in his mind. And I guess Jordan Peele actually loves that. He's like, that's cool. It's not the movie I made, but
Yeah.
that's a cool
Well,
idea.
no, there does seem to be a production difference between what scenes he is in and scenes that Chris are in.
Yeah.
Where it's
Yeah.
like Chris is clearly in like a horror movie, and then like Rod is like in a rom com or something. He just
Right.
hasn't met the woman yet. um. Again, so like when you make great choices in your movies, whether you're intended or not, people take away positivity from that. So
Well, it means people are invested in the movie enough
yeah,
to where they're like, I'm going to write my own script. I mean,
yeah,
I'm going to take this material and I'm going to expand it with within the parameters of what it was. Like this is the subtext,
yeah,
and and I also this is like really highly intelligent filmmaking too,
yeah.
because it appeals to you on a base level, on an emotional level, on it's like you get what's going on, but it's also like, oh, I want to see more. It's cool.
So Chris is sitting in front of a television. It's like an old '50s like television,
Yeah,
which that's kind of like what this whole like room kind of looks like, a '50s office or whatever.
yeah, that makes sense.
Just like bigger and well, it's like '50s if you're making like a temple to something because there's
Yeah,
also there's also some weird stuff. Was it the coagula or something like that? Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Immediately. Um,
This is basically an homage to the lost videotapes that the people would find on the island on the TV show Lost.
oh, okay.
It's like we're going to talk about weird stuff, and it's like we're all going to smile and look at the camera, and then we're going to be revealed to be characters later. But it's all the like the high science and hypnosis and self help of the 70s and 80s. It just kind of reaching its evil apex in coagula or whatever. Yeah,
So yeah, the TV starts playing a video. It's of Roman Armitage, who was the grandfather. He talks about the coagula procedure and how he's like how his order had perfected it, which that's another weird thing. He's like, oh, is this like some secret society that they have like secret transplant knowledge that only they know. So, but they don't get too deep into that, but it's just mentioned. Um, so basically, they're brain swapping older people into the bodies of young, healthy black people. So I don't know if like, so I don't know if like he's done the procedure or the what was done to him was the first procedure. I don't know like where this starts or where it ends. They kind of make it sound like it's a long-standing thing, but I have no idea. So
Yeah, it kind of, this is where the elements of the occult and magic mix with. This is where it becomes very kind of Lovecraftian in a way. It's like it's an ancient thing, but a new thing. You don't know.
then the video switches to a teacup scraping, and then he just immediately falls asleep. Um, we cut to Rod tells a detective about how Chris has been missing for 2 days, and explains that like Andre, who's been missing, but he's found, and how that's weird. Um, Rod explains his theory to detective about it being like sex slave and hypnosis stuff, and then she brings more detectives in to hear Rod's theory about abduction, hypnotizing, and making them sex slaves. And then eventually they just all laugh at Rod, so, which is what you're expecting.
Yeah.
Um, then Rod goes back to Chris's to take care of his dog, but he's also like writing things down in notes. I think there's like a little off thing. He says like, "No, magic's not real." And he's like crossing out like a cloud of magic written on the notepad. So.
Yeah. Really thinking about all the angles here.
Rod calls Chris's phone again, and now Rose picks up, and then she's trying to like cover up like his disappearance. And then Rod starts recording the phone call, but then like Rose turns it on him to make it like all look like gel sex stuff from Rod's end. He's like, that evil bitch, she played me. She's good. She's good. Which is also evil because it seems like, she would know to do that because she's done this so many times. Nobody's caught them yet. So, or they paid off the right people. How deep does it go? I don't know. We cut to Chris wakes up again. Now Jim is on the TV and he's talking with Chris, so there's like an intercom and video and all that stuff, so it's back and forth. Jim's in a hospital gown, and then Jim explains the procedure for the brain transplant, which basically it's like they leave the brain stem and then completely replace the rest of the brain. He's like explaining like, yeah, there'll be a little bit of you left in me, and like you'll live in the sunken place, which just seems like, well, that's a complete nightmare.
Yeah, that sounds like hell, but okay.
And then Chris asks like, "Why us? Why black people?" And then Jim's like, "I don't know. People want to change, want to be faster, stronger, cooler." But then Jim says like, "I just want your eyes, man." So,
Which is almost creepier.
yeah.
Eyes, man. The
Yeah,
way
because they like have like the grade over eyes for his character, and he just kind of like stares directly into the like moves into the camera lens to like I want your eye, man. So, then I think like the video goes out and Chris sees that like there's cotton poking through the cushion that he's been like clawing at the entire time.
yeah.
Which I'm pretty sure there's probably some direct correlation to a literal black person literally picking cotton in this situation.
Well, there is.
So,
Because they actually had to find actual cotton and build the chair around it.
okay.
Because no one really uses cotton stuffing anymore. It's all synthetic.
Yeah.
Because so it's like they had to like custom have the chair made so he could pull pieces of cotton out. But yeah, it was a direct. The director acknowledged it's like, oh yeah, exactly. That's what I was doing. So.
I can't remember if I picked on like exactly what he's going to do. Did you pick up what he was going to do immediately, or was it a surprise?
Yes, it made sense because it's like it's triggered by sound because I've heard the term "stuff cotton in your ears."
Yeah,
it's because nowadays we have like synthetic earplugs that we just stuff in and they change conform to our ear. But you could also stuff cotton in there or do the same thing. You just wouldn't be as fast.
I can't remember if I picked up on it or not. Like this time I definitely did, but I'm guessing I probably didn't the first time.
I was pretty locked into this movie, and once I figured out that they weren't erasing people's minds, and the video I watched before this was like, oh yeah, we're just going to take their brains and physically transfer them. It's like, oh, he's got some kind of audio, hallucin or
trigger or something.
Audio, what do you call that? Hypnosis, some kind of. So if he can mute that sound, he can just act like he's going into like, oh, okay, and then it's safe to move him, and then he'll wake up and like, just go at you with a crowbar or whatever. I figured what was gonna
Yeah.
come.
Yeah, we cut back to the teacup sound plays again. He goes, no, 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 and then he passes out. Then we cut to the surgery room where we have the weird chanting music plays. Dean starts cutting the top of Jim's head, which he's under. Now he's under anesthesis or whatever. Or yeah, yeah. Jeremy gets a wheelchair and goes to grab Chris. He undoes the restraints, and then Chris silently gets up, grabs like a croquet ball.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because the croquet stuff. So or yeah, or whatever. Or no, what's racquetballs? I'm thinking he had a racquetball thing earlier. But anyways, croquet is old rich white people stuff too. So, and Jeremy beats him to death Chris beats Jeremy to death with it. Well, seemingly to death. He bleeds a lot, and then comes back for one last moment. So, but that's what happens in horror movies. So, then we reveal that the cotton he put in his ears to avoid the hypnosis. We cut back to Dean, who he goes looking for Jeremy, and then he kind of looks one way, and when he looks back the other way, he sees Chris running at him and stabs him with a deer head. It's like that's a crazy like impromptu weapon.
Yeah, I've heard of improvised attacks before, but it's like I'm just gonna gore you to death.
Well, only like when you see how bad everything is here, it's like, well, everybody deserves like the worst death possible. So.
Yeah, no one gets shot in the head here. It can't be that easy. Yeah.
Then a fire starts in a lab. So he walks off. Chris walks upstairs and sees Georgina, and she runs away. He grabs his phone. Chris crosses paths with Missy. He knocks away the teacup, so she can't do that. She stabs him in the hand with a letter opener, which he just like. He doesn't scream or anything. He just like turns it around and like stabs her in the neck with the same letter opener and kills her immediately.
I was hoping he'd like shove her head in the microwave and turn. I really disliked her a lot.
Yeah.
She seemed so conniving and cunning and smug about everything that was going on. It's like, stick her hand in the garbage disposal or something. But
at this point, I feel like all these people needed to just die like they were teenagers in a Flight of the 13th movie. So.
Yeah.
Just put them feet first through a table saw.
I particularly didn't like her and Jeremy.
Yeah.
That Jeremy was like because he was like the smug, like
I think Rose deserved the worst death, and I think she actually got like a pretty tame death comparatively. So.
Yeah, well, Rose was Rose and Jeremy were just sociopaths. They just had no, they didn't take pleasure or pain in what they were doing at this point. They'd done it so much. I mean, can you imagine doing that to people? Just bringing them in to essentially die or be destroyed in the worst way you could imagine.
Yeah, like what's your job and why do you still live at your parents' house?
Yeah.
Well, I guess she doesn't live at her parents' house. Well, I guess presumably, but she was living with Chris for a while, I guess, or maybe she had her own place in New York. I don't know what goes on. So, because this is just a weekend at the parents, it's not like she necessarily lives there, but she seemingly lives there. You got to keep the order in order. You got to keep the cult in order.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Then we reveal that Jeremy's alive, and he puts Chris in a headlock, which then you realize like this is like, oh, this is Jeremy's from the beginning of the movie. Well, you get a little bit more later on, but Chris stabs Jeremy in the leg with the letter opener, and then he just stomps him dead finally. We cut to Rose is upstairs, like looking for the next victim while like eating dry Fruit Loops from a bowl, and then has a glass of milk with a straw in it, and somehow this seems like way creepier than like it should be. So
this is how insane people eat their food. It's the same thing, but it's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you eat a Marine Corps peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You just shove the bread in your mouth, swallow the jelly, swallow the peanut butter.
That's like everything's in like a pouch.
Yeah.
Okay. And you can't wash your hands if you get sticky jelly on.
Yeah.
I forget you guys had all that pouch food.
Then Then we cut to Chris gets in Jeremy's car, which is the car from the beginning. He drives away, and as he drives away, he hits Georgina, and he's immediately like guilted into grabbing her because this is like his mom was killed by a hit and run. So so just good character stuff, just like solid
Yes,
script throughout. So
that's what I like about this movie. Everything makes sense to a point. There's rules, everyone follows them,
yeah.
and it's like, of course he's going to do this. This isn't random. This is childhood trauma.
um, and then Rose comes out with a hunting rifle, and then she's starting to aim at the shoot at him, but then like, he drives off. But then as they're driving off, like Georgina comes to and wrecks the car, and this is where you see like her wig comes off, and you see like the cut the surgical uh
Scars.
yeah on her head, and like oh yeah, that's why all the people have like some sort of like are wearing hats and stuff like that because they're covering up these scars. So, and then yeah, so yeah, Georgina wrecks, and then she dies in the wreck because I'm not sure if she has like a I don't know if she has like a seatbelt on or not, but she dies. Um, Chris wakes up from the wreck to Rose shooting at him. Walter runs and tackles Chris, which here we get the fun. I don't know if it's a fun little thing. She's like, "Get him, Grandpa!" It's just like,
I did like that.
well, because also like when he takes Georgina, she's like, "Oh no, Grandma!" And it's just like the only time she mentions that they're okay, and directly spells out that this is Grandma and Grandpa. So, um, um, so yeah, Walter runs and tackles Chris. He's kind of doing like starting to do like the thumb and the eyes type thing, and then Chris pulls out his phone and uses a flash on Walter, and then Walter's like body like comes to whoever he really is, and then Rose comes up with a hunting rifle, and he asks her like, "Let me do it," and then she gives him the rifle, and then he just shoots Rose in the stomach, and then tucks the gun under his chin and kills himself. It's like, so that's the only way out of there. So
I mean, again, everything's making sense. It's
yeah,
all coming together.
he got out. Then Rose comes to and she tries to grab the rifle, but Chris grabs it first. And then Rose kind of or he puts the rifle aside and like kind of like leans over Rose, and Rose is saying "I love you," and then Chris starts choking her, and at some point she just starts smiling at him. It's like, oh, this is creepy as hell. But then he can't bring himself to actually kill her or choke her to death. And then
Pretty hardcore.
yeah. And then a police car pulls up, and I don't know if you had like this moment in your theater, but this happened in my theater. But like there was a gasp because everybody knew it was like, oh fuck, the cops are gonna kill him because he's choking a white lady.
I actually thought that for a second. Even when I watched it today, I didn't quite remember the end. I was like, "Oh, does the cop kill him? Is that like the bitter irony?" But then
Yeah.
it's no. Okay, good.
So yeah, like I remember watching this in the theater. Like there's a little gasp when the cops pull up, which is like a again a weird the cops are supposed to be the good people, right? Then Rose starts calling for help. And then Chris puts his hands up in the air because he's like, "Oh no, this is all gonna happen." And then revealed it's Rod and his TSA card has lights on it, and like this is when cheers started erupting in the audience. And then Chris hops in the front of the seat of the TSA car, and then like there's this moment of pause, and he's like, and then Rod just goes, "I mean, I told you not to go in the house." And they said something out like, this is how TSA handles their shit or something like that. And then they get out of there as Rose finally
Well,
bleeds
doesn't he
to death.
say something like when he gets in the car? It's like, "How did you find me?" or whatever, and he's
Yeah.
like, "I'm TS motherfucking A," or
Yeah.
crazy like that.
Uh,
Which is funny because nobody like thinks of the TSA as like our premier investigative agency, but he really believes in himself.
Yeah, they get out of there as Rose finally bleeds to death, and then we get the titles "Get Out," and then we get credits, and it's what a great horror movie, what a great freshman film from a new director.
Yeah, and one that I still, and it's like I can't believe I haven't watched it since we watched it originally. Besides today, but yeah, it's the one I mean, I really like this one. I mean, the one I really get into is like Nope, because it's like, oh yeah, I can do all.
Yeah, Nope speaks to me in a weird way that I don't.
Yeah, I can do all 9 dimensions.
But we'll get there. I have it on the next docket. So
it's going to be like a 2-parter, maybe. I'm not sure.
No, it's a pretty short movie. I think we'll get through it, but it just depends how esoteric we get or personal recollections we have. So, but yeah, just um, yeah, because I was kind of. I mean, I know I'm choosing good movies here, but I was kind of worried that like as we got like deeper into like recent movies, we'd just be disappointed in what they were. But there's like, I don't know. This is better than like almost every movie from the '90s. I don't know.
Yeah, this is a certain kind of apex filmmaking where it's like, yeah, we're gonna openly admit there's like, yeah, there's controversial subject matter here about controversial stuff in a controversial time, but if it's gonna be a wild ride and you're gonna enjoy it, you know,
Yeah.
and you get out of it what you want to or what you can. You know, we're limited by being white people watching this movie, but you know, but I can enjoy it fully and recommend it to anyone. You
Yeah.
know, whatever I'm not getting out of this is like, okay, but I still like it. Because it's not like, because they say that, you know, people say that stuff. They make these analyses about who these movies are for and who they'll speak to. And it's like, well, I've watched movies that are entirely in foreign languages from
Yeah.
other cultures and really enjoyed them also. It's
Yeah.
like, sure, I don't get them the way a lot of people would get them, like, you know, like a lot of some of the Japanese movies we watched and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, I'm sure the Japanese people that hits on a different level. But for me, it's like, yeah, this is cool.
Or
But
even
also,
like
this
with
isn't
like
this.
Old Boy was like, it's like that's. I mean, it was successful enough they bothered to make an American version, but like you didn't need it because that's like the
Terrible.
yeah. I mean, that was like ultimately the thing is like anybody can just watch the Korean version and get the same thing out of it. Like you don't need an American cast to sell that movie. It
No.
works as well. Um,
But what's interesting about this is it's not a foreign film. It's not about a culture we don't understand. We don't speak different languages, but yet there's this, you know,
there
strange.
is a disconnect that we
Yes, there is a disconnect.
or there's just an experience we don't have
No,
that we don't have to think about almost ever. So,
no, and it's not something we're aware of. We're not cognizant of it.
but you did get. I mean, although you do have the same reaction, like when you think the cops pull up at the end, to think, oh no,
Yeah, this isn't going to go well.
and you're thinking, oh no, but it's like because he's a black guy. That's why you're thinking, oh no.
Hey, it's just like the guy said to me when I started at my when I changed plants is like, man, Murph, you got to watch the cops around here. They pull people over all the time. He's like, oh no, wait a minute, never mind. I was like, oh, thank you. I understand. We didn't even need to finish. It's a
Yeah.
warning. I think I'm cool. Not I am cool, but just because, you know, I don't know. This is the world we live in.
Yeah.
But yeah, this guy was like Lean legit, like, man, you got to watch. He's like, oh, never mind. I was like, all right, yeah, I get it.
He was
I
so, he was so like accepting you as a person that he thought as you as like, oh, you're just like me. You're gonna have the same problems I am, and they're like, oh wait, you're white. Never
yeah,
mind. So.
obviously. I mean, I not only am I white, I am translucently just the whitest guy you'll ever. I can't be in the sun very long. You know, that kind of white guy. But yeah. So yeah, the thing
You
that's
ever
cop-
help a black guy out and he calls you brother and you feel like a weird sense of like like oh cool, I'm a part of the gang.
uh, the whole brother thing here, there's a lot of that shoots through the union too.
Yeah.
And yes, I have experienced that both ways from all kinds of different people. Thanks, brother. Thanks for helping, you know. And it's like, yeah, it does feel different when black guys say it, but it's also like that's kind of a union thing. And I never say that to anyone. I never will. So it's like, oh, okay, this is like interesting. This okay.
I remember one time I helped out a black guy and he gave me an assalamu alaikum. I was like, okay.
Cool. Now that's wild. I've never been that. You weren't like, alaikum salam. Yeah.
No, I think I attempted to do that. So
Yeah, I'm cool too, right? Okay. Wow, yeah, I've never caught one of those. That's cool.
um, I think he was being followed around the store, and I helped him put like something he bought in his car. And he's like, I think he was just amazed I wasn't treating him like a thief or something.
I'm trying to think of what somebody had a Cadillac that okay, I know this is going to sound like, oh, well, of course. But no, it had a 70s Cadillac, broke down by the side of the road. And this car had been well cared for. Like it was just like race car black, like black, so black you could like put your hand in it. It was so well waxed and painted. And it was this older guy, this older black guy. He was having he was, I think it was something was wrong with the engine. But anyway, he needed a ride home. It's like, can you give me a ride? I'm like, yeah, sure. Turns out he lived in my neighborhood. Like I didn't know this. And he got on the phone and he was having someone pick up the car, and he tried to give me like $100. Like, here, take this, man. I was like, no, I can't do that. I said, we live around here. We'll run into each other someday. Don't worry about it. I got him down to like 20, and he's like, buy your kids some ice cream or something. You know, he was like, he was so he was happy that I was willing to help him, and also was like, I don't know why he was trying to give me $100. Like I literally drove 2 miles. It's like there's not even the most expensive taxi in the world wouldn't cost that much, but I think he was real happy. But when I see people in trouble, like I don't care. And I'm not saying pat me on the back. It's like no, it's like because I might be in trouble someday too, and I need you not to care that like. Because I'm not like I don't have I'm not worried about being judged by my race, but I'm being worried about like I'm 6 foot tall and over 200 pounds, and to certain people that's like just scary to see that guy standing there no matter what, especially because I don't say much or I don't smile a lot, or I'm kind of like just staring into the distance a lot because I'm just in my own head. And some people are like, he's a creep. And it's like, no, just say hi to him, he's fine. So yeah, so I always I've never like been afraid to help people unless they're just acting weird.
Yeah, that's why I was in Virginia. Like, I got out of a car, I was going to Walmart, and there was a guy like coming off the bus, immediately talking about. I was like, "Hey, can you help someone out?" I'm like, "No," I just kept walking.
Yeah, it's not, whatever game you're playing. What is this? What? How can I help you by guessing like which cup the ball's under? Cup. Ta-da! I'm out of here. Yeah. No, I mean people that genuinely need help, not people that are running a grift.
Yeah.
Especially the guys that are off the super bus around Virginia. It's like I spent my last dollar to get out to the suburbs to get some coin. You're my guy. It's like, no.
I had a bunch of people like, were working at Walmart that would like come in, like park their car, be like, I just ran out of gas, I need some money, and then like, no, I don't have any, because they're like, this feels weird, and then they get money and they drive out of there without adding any gas to their car. It's like,
yeah,
okay,
gas station right there. Yeah.
I happen to have a car and I need someplace to go and I have no gas and no money. Like, it's like, that sounds like you've completely ill prepared for the entire day. So,
I had a guy come up to me in a parking lot with a FedEx uniform. Try to tell me he needs $10 for his delivery. I like sidestepped and just kept walking.
Yeah.
And he's like, come on, fuck, man. You know, he's really like, oh no. I don't know, where's the FedEx driver? That's what I want. What's going on here? And then I think later I should have been like, well, you found the right guy. I'm like the regional supervisor for FedEx. If you can give me like a form 335C, we can go fill your truck up, right over here. We got a contract with these guys. Like just totally like, take me to your truck. I work for FedEx. I can help you. And that would just get me punched in the face. But you always think like, I'd love to do that later. But
because I'm sure there's been times where somebody have ran out of gas genuinely and just don't happen to have any money. I just every week seems like well, if that happens every week, then I don't believe anybody that has that scenario. So sorry.
Oh, the best guy that got me with that scam was a guy who is walking away from his car with a thing of gas, a gas can.
Yeah.
And it's like, or no, he wasn't walking away from his car. He's walking along the side of the road with a gas can. It's like, hey, can we go fill this up? Get some gas in my car? Sure. And I get to the gas station. He's like, do you have any money? And I was like, fuck? I was like, okay. And I gave him $10 and it's like, he didn't come back to the car. Off. I was like, God, he got me. Oh. But that, to be fair, was a white guy that did that to me. That was walking along the side of the road with a gas can. And later on, I was like, that was actually well played, sir. That, of course.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, yeah, these grifts I'm talking about is there's no racial lines. These grifts are it's a poor people thing. It's not a racial thing.
Yeah, but the FedEx guy and the gas can guy both. The FedEx guy didn't get me. The gas can guy got me, but I don't feel like a sucker there. It's like, man, that was
well played, sir.
Yes, thank you. I imagine that gas can, he probably puts the money in there. $7 in there. He probably has more money than I'm making a day in that gas can. It's like, well.
Well, we're sitting here probing to say kind of this supercut of the scenes from the Imperfect Collection that is the Verhoeven Effect. Nathan, what scene from this movie are we shoving into space?
We're going to have to do the name of the movie scene into the silent auction.
Okay.
Because that explains roughly everything that's going on here without explaining it at all. Cool. Which is, I think, what they call good filmmaking. Oh, yeah.
You can find us on Letterboxd, username VHE. Nathan, 1 out of 5 stars. What are we giving this movie?
Definitely 5 stars. 5 stars for quality, for following all its own rules, giving you, believing no matter what happens. It's like, I believe this character would do this. It's like, that there's no illogic in this movie at all.
Yeah.
Which is, considering the bizarre plot line, is like, that's amazing. That's really good.
Yeah, everything has a meaning and it's paid off. Nothing's just there for being there. So, anyway, you can find us at verhoeveneffect.com. There you can find we have listener support. You can support us on monthly side with either 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99. Cancel anytime. You can rate our podcast whatever platform you're choosing. Rate us whatever you want to be. The only thing the algorithm listens to is the highest rating. So give us the highest rating so we can confuse the algorithm and give smaller podcasts a chance.
Yeah. This is not whatever you want to say about this content. I'm sure I don't want to hear it. Whatever you could imagine saying about this content, it is not generated by AI.
Yeah.
These are two guys sitting down actually having these conversations.
You can find us at Twitter at Verhoeven Effect. You can find us at Blue Sky Social at Verhoeven Effect. You can find us at Facebook at Verhoeven Effect. And you can find us on YouTube at American Greed Factory and watch both this and that show live and unedited. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.
Goodbye, America.